to Four Corners. I am one of the hosts of your show. I am Bray, the best bowler you know, probably, unless you bowl a lot. You might know bowlers other than me, but I'm top 1% of the top 1%. Um, Joined by fellow host Peter Bucket since '88, resident of the Deep North.
Yeah, got about 7 months left up here in Alaska, so
How are you faring?
we're hanging in there. We're surviving. The snow shovel is brand new, so it still does a good job.
Do you
And
have a snowblower?
no, luckily that hasn't been necessary yet. I live in a place where it's like
More temperate?
they have what's called like housing DCs, which are basically like people that work on housing. So like if you have like a pipe leak or if you have issues with heating, they'll come fix it. But they also do like the lawn maintenance in the summer, and they will do like snow blowing in the winter if it's really bad.
Gotcha. Okay, that's nice, especially
Yeah.
in Alaska. Have you done any like Alaska exploring?
No, not really. Mostly just going out on the boat.
It seems like an interesting place. Um,
There's too much like moose and bears around. It's just kind of dangerous, so I'd rather not do that.
Not fighting for your country, fighting for your life.
Exactly. But it's
Okay.
it's a good time of year. Thanksgiving is always one of my favorite weekends. Had some pecan pie, probably my favorite dessert, and finally got
Top
to
top
enjoy.
three top three Thanksgiving dishes.
Ooh, well, I'm a big sucker for the sweet potato casserole. I also love the green bean casserole, and then you gotta have mac and cheese.
All right, all right. Um, I'd have to. I'm TBD on that green bean casserole. I don't know who made it. We'll see.
That's fair.
Uh,
It's definitely a white people thing.
yeah. Well, it's funny because when you said sweet potato and not pumpkin pie, I was like, my man. But then you said green bean casserole. I was like, I don't know about this. That's we'll see. We'll see though. I'm sure at one point. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean,
I'll try
got
it.
to enjoy a nice Nuggets victory last night against Devin Booker and the Middling Suns. It's funny time over there in Suns lands. All of the fans are happy because the team plays super hard. I'm like, you guys are first round out at best. Like, enjoy it. So
You
okay, I
know,
guess
sometimes if you're a Suns fan, isn't it nice to just like
not have pressure.
not have pressure and like you're playing to the best of your abilities, even if those abilities are limited, and you're not
Yeah,
dealing
but
with.
see, but here's the problem, Ray. They're in the same like level of team as the Nuggets were in like 2017, 18, when they were like young and up and coming, sort of. Except that team had all their draft picks, so they then drafted Michael Porter. Like the Suns don't have their draft picks; they're kind of just in no man's land.
I honestly feel a little offended that you even compared this Suns team to the 27 because isn't that the 57 win? Am I thinking of the right year?
No, dude. Way after that, I'm talking about like the year we signed Millsap. Millsap got hurt. We like
We
barely
were
missed.
way better than the Suns are now that year. I think.
We'll
In my
see. I mean,
head.
the
In my
Suns
head.
team, the Suns team might make the playoffs, but the West is super weird this year. If you've noticed, because it's like the top three teams, top four teams have a really good record, and then after that, it's kind of like free for all. So, well, I guess
Yeah.
five. Yeah, Spurs, Lakers, Rockets, Nuggets, and Thunder are all good. After that, it's like the Warriors clearly are not good. The Clippers are a disaster, which is hilarious. And the Suns
It's
are like, yeah,
hilarious.
we'll take the sixth spot.
The Clippers to me are a cautionary tale against some of the worst excesses of like the way teams hate the process or
Because
the
they
way
don't develop
quote
anybody.
of trying to of trying to be like, oh, if we just bring in a bunch of veterans and get rid of all the young guys and fuck them picks and we spend we spend money and we're just going to have the best team in the league. It's easy to win the off season, as we have said. The Clippers have won the off season the last, I don't know, they've won like 8 out of the last 10 off seasons. And you end up with a team that's too old to do anything. You're like, oh,
Well,
yeah.
I was actually listening to Hoop Collective earlier, and I got to steal this point from them. I thought it was a really good one. It's like we think of Steve Ballmer as this guy who's always trying to just throw money at every problem because like that's what he's done in the past. But them trading Norm Powell to the Heat for free was basically a cost-cutting move because they didn't want to pay him. And not because like they can't afford him, but more just because they want to have the books clean, like in a couple years.
Mhm.
But that's been like a major backfire, right? Like they need his scoring badly. They don't have an extra like creator outside Harden, so that they kind of played themselves in the short term with that. Who knows what they'll end up doing? Like you said, they'll probably win the summer again, like next year or the year after. But they're missing Norman Powell right now because they wanted to save money. So kind of ironic, don't you think?
You can only spend so much money for so long,
Right.
and it feels before you don't want to. I get it because you don't want to be so wrapped up in breaking the stigma of like, oh, you penny pinchers or what have you, that you get to a point where you're giving everybody, you got to pay everybody just because so you don't get talked about online or something. I think
Yeah.
that I don't want to say that I'm interested to see how the Nuggets can what do they want to do that's similar and what do they want to do that's different going forward, if that makes sense, because I do think the Nuggets are also kind of getting into Denver sports. The Nuggets are also getting to a phase where the team's getting older and you're having to make choices about who you pay and who you don't want to pay and what the cost cutting measures are, and you're fighting with the accusations of being cheap, which sometimes are warranted. I don't know if they're always warranted, but at least sometimes I think the Cronkies have practice facilities. The Cronkies have made real compromises that feel petty in terms of like the finance aspects of it. And does it cost you in the short term? And does the long term matter? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a slippery slope the last few years because I don't think that Calvin Booth was specifically told you can't pay KCP. I think that was a Calvin Booth trying to outsmart everybody. I believe in Christian. He's my guy. I picked
Mhm.
him. I think this can work. And it was like I don't really know what to say if it was a success or a mixed bag or it's probably still a to be determined. But it was clear that last year Christian Brown was good, but they never replaced KCP at the same time, right? It was like the backfill of that decision is what hurt the team because the offense was just so much more difficult for Murray and Jokic to get offense, having
Mhm.
CB in that spot where he just doesn't really, frankly, quite, shoot a lot of threes. And then the bench was bad. So it's like, I can't even really blame Christian because it's like he did good in a bigger role. But I think this year the new staff finally realized like, hey, let's get some veterans around Jokic and we're going to get into it, talk about all the good and the bad, but man, Tim Hardaway, I think I was a little higher on than you going into the year, but I didn't even expect this Ray. This has been like, wow, he's just lighting it up. There's really only been a couple of games he's been off. It feels like every other game he's pretty much come in and just started lighting it up.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's definitely fulfilled the expectation of like he's a shooter, and sometimes he's had stretches where if he's not hitting shots, it doesn't feel like it makes sense for him to be on the floor. But at the same time, for the most part, he has shown up more than most players can expect. He's shooting 43% on the year, which is really nice. I will say there's a trade off is that they're old. They're older. They're a little less athletic, and they're a little more susceptible to injuries. And I think that's really bearing fruit in the like defensive department. Is that when I watch them play, they're so good offensively that that it's I see the advantage, right? They're putting up buck 30 a game, buck 40 a game. It's nice. But also they're giving up a buck 30 a game, a buck 40 a game sometimes.
Well, so if you had to pinpoint the defensive issues, would you say it's a talent issue, a schematic issue, or like lazy, we just don't give a shit issue? Like, how would you rank those in terms of the issues? Because the Spurs game was really weird. Remember, they gave up like 41 in the first quarter, then they held them to 12 in the second quarter. So it's like they can play defense. They just don't always.
I think it's a talent thing. Um, I do think David Adelman is trying a lot schematically that sometimes it works, sometimes it does not, like with the zones and stuff like that. And it can be very frustrating. I think there's a lot of conversation around, especially the way that they help off corners and help one pass away. That's a
Yeah.
little that looks suspect,
The
but at the
extra
same
pass is
time,
killing us this year.
the extra pass is killing them. Part of me understands it though, in terms of how do you account for how few good defenders they have. Like I think some part of the Spurs game in some of the runs and ebbs and flows of that game was in that second quarter, you've got like Zeke Naji having a good stretch, Spencer Jones having a good stretch, Peyton Watson having a good stretch, Bruce having a good stretch. Those they can put out a good lineup defensively, but without Christian and without Aaron, they can't put out good defensive lineups for 48 minutes
Right.
or even like 35 minutes. Like they really only have the horses to really do it for stints. And even when they do it, they are making compromises on the offensive end as well. And sometimes those compromises hurt them defensively. Like I think about Bruce Brown in this way in particular, in that he first off, before I say all this, I love Bruce, right? You love Bruce. I'm sure you do. We all love Bruce. We're happy he's back. He especially, a couple years, he's 29, coming off the injury. He's scoring 6 points a game and putting up 2 assists in like 25-ish minutes and 23 minutes a game. And I think one of the issues with his experience at backup point guard is that like he's just so anemic offensively, especially when you're talking about finishing at the rim. And he was never a guy who you had a ton of faith in his like floater game or his mid range. So much so that if he's not hitting his threes, and he's at 30% on the year, you're kind of like, all right, how do you demand enough respect um, not to justify your place on the court, because he is doing that with the energy, with the hustle, with the defense. But the Nuggets will end up in a lot of they're scoring a lot, but they'll have a lot of turnovers, or they'll produce bad looks, or they can't get Valanciunas the ball. And that's ending up punishing them on the defensive end as well, because they're giving up runouts and turnovers and easy baskets going the other way. So you just it's not his fault. It's just that we all get older and we all lose that step. And he's small. Small guards losing a step is way more often than not a bigger impact than like Jokic losing a step athletically.
It's funny because I thought about it a little bit over the summer, and there's been games where I thought about it this year too, where it's like when Bruce is bad, I'm just like, and then I see that Russ had another like 16 and 12 in Sacramento. I'm just like, man, like Russ's production is there, but I also understand why the team went with Bruce because they know that he's going to bring you the consistent like amount of volume, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
I think Bruce totally understands his role. He's going to play hard. He's going to play defense. He's going to communicate. He's going to be a good teammate. The biggest issue with Bruce is not just the offensive like finishing to me. It's that whenever you need a basket, if the ball finds him with like 5 seconds or less, it's probably not going in. Like that's what's unfortunate is you can't ask him to do too much. Anytime he gets overextended, it's just like he's trying to make a play. Like I appreciate the fact that hey, this possession didn't go anywhere. You got to get one up before the buzzer goes off. But like those percentage shots have got to be like under 20%. I think he had one the other day where he was wide open in the corner. He bricked a three, followed his own miss, and then instead of just taking up strong on the left side, he tried to do a reverse and like missed that too. And I was just like, man, like that was an empty possession, but it's going to happen because yeah, I think he was like 1 for 7 against the Spurs, and we lost that game by a couple possessions. I mean, there was a lot of reasons we lost that game, but he also has these weird plays where it's like he'll get a steal and then a dunk or a layup, or he'll just have these cuts or these random like big energy plays where he scores and then the other team has to call timeout because he's so fired up and the team's fired up. So it's like he's like a even though he's not one of those like bench guys that can go off for 20 like Tim Hardaway, he is still kind of like a big momentum shift guy. Even as like you just read out the stats, he only scores 6 points a game. It's like he scores 6 points a game, but those 6 points are it's like, Bruce Brown scored on us. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like when Mason Plumlee hits a three, when you're like,
Well, not
like,
quite
oh,
that
this
level, but I guess what you're saying.
the same kind of effect though. It's like when you have somebody who like you're not thinking about them as a threat to score and they score, you're like, it hits
Well,
that much
because Bruce
harder.
talks, right? He'll make like a random floater and he'd be like, what's up? And I'm just like, all right, Bruce.
No, it's great. He's contributing. He's definitely worth the money. And
Yeah.
you're right in that he's not forcing anything. Like one of the things at least I appreciate is that when he gets to the rim, a lot of the times he makes the smart choice to not take that layup, not try to make that contested layup and pull it back out and run something else.
Mhm.
That just puts him in a different category as how you can rely on him and what moments of the game do you really want Bruce on the floor in and that kind of thing. And
he's not afraid of the moment, as we've seen before, right? Like you can play him in crunch time if you need to. I forget the game that we did that. I want to say it was like maybe against the Kings like a couple times ago when they were like, oh, why is Cam not closing or something? And it was like because the Kings just had like all guards out there. So it was like one of those things.
There is a use case for him, for sure. And I think that, but so that kind of effect that we're talking about, that Bruce is a little bit older and um, a little less explosive. That kind of translate. I mean, Jamal is putting in more effort in defensively, but he's not. He's only going to do so much. I'm not even knocking him. I feel like he's put in so much more effort defensively this year than he has in the last 5. But him talking about Jokic, AG, Cam to a degree. Not that he's been on the team for a long time, but he's not the most explosive player, especially on the defensive end. He's sound, and that's why we brought him in, is that he's going to be able to be smart in his decisions, but he's not shutting anybody down in that way, not preventing, some of the things that David Adelman talks about in pressers, straight line drives, just staying in front of your man, that type of thing that just demands quickness, just the physical tools, the athleticism to stay in front of guys. And it's why OKC is so good, is that they have, we got 3 great defenders on the court, and they're all going to be off the court in 10 minutes. And we got 3 more great defenders on the court. And even the 2 guys who aren't great defenders, they're good. They're solid. Yeah. They're fine. And Denver doesn't have that. Denver has why is Spencer Jones starting? It's because they didn't have the...
Hey, another guy that knows his role, though.
He does know his role. And that as a point of optimism is like Bruce, Spencer, Peyton, especially in the last couple of weeks, I think they've done a great job of knowing when to scale down, which is nice. And I don't think it's not a reason for panic for me. Like, I think they'll bring it home in a way as long as they're healthy. But that's always been a question mark, a caveat, that sort of thing.